Hello, and welcome everyone to another episode of Game Vortex, which today seems to be the biggest episode of my channel ever. Today we're going to be talking about the recent leaks that I got from a very reliable source about the Nintendo Switch console, price, controllers and storage and so on and so forth. So before we start, I just wanted to tell you that I'm not obviously going to say any names or anything like that because most of the Nintendo employees are under the NDA, but through one of my students, the Japanese students that I used to teach before, his brother works at Nintendo, I managed to get very good information that tell you about what you should expect from Nintendo's Switch console before it was called NX, and we have a lot to discuss. I wasn't even sure if I was planning to do the whole video in one go to tell you everything. There are some things that I can tell you for sure, and there are some things that I'm not exactly sure because I was just given hints and details and so on. So let's take things up one by one and we'll see where that goes. So first of all, let's talk about Nintendo's NX Switch. I actually prefer that would have called it NX. It's a pretty cool name. So price, the first thing we're going to talk about the price. Let me just quickly look through my notes that I got from the person that I spoke to. Okay, so the first thing is the price. Now this is the thing that is still being discussed internally at Nintendo, though I do have some specific points here to talk to you. There's gonna be a base console, at least for now, unless they change their mind. Maybe if this video breaks out and they have to change some things, there's still 5 months left until the console comes out, so anything can change. So this is what I got internally from the company or the person that works there. In any case, so it appears that there's gonna be several bundles of the console and there's gonna be different SKUs as well, which seems like a fucking nightmare right now, but hopefully they'll iron this out before the release. So you've seen the Nintendo Switch console in general. It seems like the base model which only includes the tablet and 2 controllers on the sides that you've seen in the video without the dock is going to retail between $249 and $299 US. About the hardware inside, I'm not sure. It's definitely running an architecture based on the latest GPUs you've seen from NVIDIA, and that remains to be seen if it's actually an Tegra X2 or is it actually a Tegra custom made for Nintendo using the newer architecture. This remains to be seen. In any case, it seems like, as I said before, $249 to $299 is the price of the actual tablet. Whatever that includes the hardware that I mentioned before, I have no idea yet. I'm able to speculate only a little bit on that. Now, also, what you need to know is the dock that you've seen in the videos has got a lot more to do with the NX that you might actually see. The dock that you've seen also has several ports on it. One of them obviously is the USB, which will reportedly support the external storage as you've seen on Xbox One, for example. There's also a slot for the memory, which I'm not entirely sure about. If it's a micro SD or SD card, it still remains to be seen. It definitely doesn't have the hard drive built into it because it's way too small for that side. Even if you choose 2.5mm hard drive, it's still not, it's too small for that. You have your HDMI port, and there's also one expansion port at the back, which I'm gonna be talking about a little bit later, because that has something to do with the patents that they filed about 1.5 years ago. So we have the dock. Whatever the dock is going to be sold separately, it remains to be seen still, but I think it will be, and I was told that it might retail anywhere up to $100 as well, or more depending on what's inside of it. Now, the tablet itself is not as powerful, but if you combine it with the dock itself has an additional processing power, and I'm wondering if the Tegra X2 is going to be actually in the dock and the X1 is going to be in the actual console to keep the cost down. That remains to be seen. Don't underestimate the Tegra X2, by the way. At the very least, it should match the PlayStation 4's power at this point. That as I can tell you for sure. Because the X1 came out 3 years ago and it's been calculated to have about 1 teraflops of computational power. And I think the X2 will have at least 2, or at least close to 2. I know that the Nvidia actually had a unit combining 2 Tegra X2s that are still unannounced for one of the car manufacturers, including some additional models that managed to give out a fucking 8 teraflops of computational power, which is more than the Xbox Scorpio can actually do. But this is not the same thing, because the AI and all those processing things in the car, self-driving cars, require much more computational power than the console. So don't hope for that. Then we go on to basically, where we got it here, bundles. Now there's going to be bundles. Apparently there's going to be a bundle price somewhere between $399 and $449.99. That includes everything, the Joy-Con controllers, the dock, and some additional stuff, which is going to be like a promo disc and so on. So this is the information that I have for you for the price. Now, this thing is what I got from the I got it from the person who actually works there. Now, what I'm actually going to be speculating around is that something that he just hinted for me is the internal memory and obviously the controllers. So before we dive into the controllers, let's talk about the memory. Now this is a very complicated issue. I'm not sure how true this is, but apparently there's going to be several SKUs basically for a lower memory, a higher memory, going anywhere from 32 to 128 gigabytes of built-in storage. You also have to give credit for those people who are stupid enough to say that this console is going to cost $249 or $299 for the whole thing. You can't cram so much into it and making it cost that little. There's a reason why it's called a modular console, and I think that this thing is going to be highly customizable. How well the games will scale remains to be seen. There are things that I've heard there's going to be a 32 and 64 gigabyte version of the tablet, yet there's also an expansion slot, but I wasn't told what kind of memory is it going to accept. Obviously we're playing games from cartridges, which I can confirm are going to scale anywhere from up to 64 gigabytes in the meantime, but there is a possibility to increase that storage later on as the memory becomes cheaper. Now, when I talked about the price of the Switch, I said the 32 up to 128 gigabytes, this is still a decision to be made, but you have to understand that the flash memory is not as cheap as a proprietary hard drive, like not a proprietary one, sorry, it's just the hard drive that you see in the PS4 and Xbox One, because that is still the cheapest option. Flash memory is not that cheap. It is cheap when you buy it in bulk, like Apple and Samsung, and Nintendo in this case, depending on how many million units they're actually going to order. The price difference is not that big. It remains to be seen if they're willing to take a hit like PlayStation 3 did, not to that extent of course, but we're still observing that right now. So what kind of a memory is going to be inside? It's going to be a decision between an SD and micro SD card. Whatever it's going to be a proprietary format to avoid the piracy, that remains to be seen, but I don't think that Nintendo actually cares that much about that, not as much as Sony, because they've seen their mistakes and they've seen that kind of memory cards cost a fucking fortune. If you're already asking people to shell out $300-400 for the console, they can't spend another $100 or $200 on buying the storage that they need. What I'm also puzzled about is that if the dock itself has some kind of a memory in it, like I said, an expansion slot that I've heard about, and also the tablet itself is going to have some kind of a storage in there, how the hell the things are going to work together, and are the games going to transfer between the two? It also remains to be seen what the online infrastructure is. I was confirmed that there will be an online infrastructure, but I wasn't confirmed if the thing will actually allow you to download full-size games over the internet, or you have to buy the cards. I mean, yes, we live in the new world, next generation, so you should be able to download the games, but then comes in when some of the games might be more than 32 gigabytes of storage. So what happens then, we have no idea so far. Moving on, it's gonna have, the dock itself is gonna have an HDMI or even 2 HDMI. So that's, I'm not sure about, because the person talked to me, it's gonna have display ports. That's what he said, display ports. So if it's one, then it's obviously outputting to your TV, but if it's two, then that means it will be able to broadcast whatever the television is showing onto your tablet, so you can watch that stuff while you're away, sort of like the Wii U wanted to do with that stuff, but in a bit better functionality. There's also a special port at the back, and this is something that I wanted to talk to you before. This port, I have no idea what it is and how it looks like, because I wasn't shown anything and I wasn't given any details. Basically, what I think it is that a couple of, I think about a year and a half ago or a year ago, there was a patent leaked out from Nintendo, basically saying that there is a way to hook up another NX system to the one that is running on the TV to give it additional power. But the paradox here is that how the hell the games are gonna scale accordingly. This is something that we still need to wait and find out. And of course, last but not least, let's talk about the controllers. The so-called Joy-Cons, or whatever the fuck you want to call them. The Joy-Cons reportedly will have a battery life of about 3 to 5 hours, depending on how you use it and depending on which controllers that you're using. I specify here which, because this is when Nintendo hopes to make up maybe for the loss in the console, but some games will come bundled with one of the Joy-Con controllers left and right, depending on where you are, because they can be swapped independently. It doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed, so this is something you need to know about. They are going to have several controllers, and some of them will be sold separately from the console. The price will range from $59.99 to $100, basically, to $99.99, depending on the functionality of the controllers. And as you probably, if you listen to the previous video that I actually said before, is some of the controllers will be able to expand the functionality of the consoles. There are controllers that will feature an infrared cameras on them, which when you dock the console, you can take out those Joy-Con controllers and use them as a motion controllers, sort of like you did with the Wii. But in this case, you're gonna have two of them. So this is the main feature you're having there. So the motion controls are still there. I mean, wherever they're gonna be bundled or optional probably depends on which bundle you're gonna buy. What I've heard as well is that the top of the range bundle will cost somewhere around $399 to $449, which will include everything you need to play the games out of the box: the docking station, the tablet, the two controllers. Now, this is quite interesting, and the thing is, if they do it right, they have the potential to revolutionize the gaming market here, because they are doing something that nobody has ever done before. They are trying to cram in actually 3 devices into one: the Wii, the Wii U, and also the traditional consoles. What gonna be the power of this system? I am not entirely sure at this point. I would reckon that they are gonna be somewhere close to the PlayStation 4, if not on the same level or a bit more powerful, which is fucking amazing for me, because this is all I ever wanted from the hybrid console. Now, the actual tablet is not going to be as powerful as the whole fucking thing, and neither can you take the dock with you without the additional power plug that you're gonna plug it into, because it's not gonna be working on its own. What I can tell you right now is that the Joy-Con controllers are sliding into this monstrosity that you've seen on the videos, right? It looks like one giant big controllers. Now, this is an additional battery pack that's supposed to extend the life of the batteries of the Joy-Con controllers up to 8 hours. You can either play using that controller, or you can just slide them in and have that charge your controllers. Depends whatever you decide to take it or not. There's also a Pro controller, which I have nothing to say about. Nothing at all. What do I think in general? I think it's a great idea. I mean, they're doing something different. They're not doing the same thing like the Xbox and PlayStation are doing. And if they succeed in the market, I'm pretty sure both of those companies are going to look into it, and they might come up with something, especially Sony. But it really remains to be seen how well the Nintendo NX performs in the market. And that's all have to do a lot with the bundles that I talked to you. Because from what I heard right now, there's a lot of propositions on the table within the Nintendo that are still yet to be decided. If they come up with too many bundles, too many features, too many different price points, it might confuse the fuck out of people, and that's going to be a bad thing for them. So they have to narrow it down to at least 3 options. I think maybe 2 or 3. What I expect is to have a base model with 2 different memory sizes, and the one that includes everything, and the dock might sell separately. I say might because that's the rumor based on about 2 months ago when that person was still working there. So there we have it, pretty much. That's all I have to say about the Nintendo NX. I mean, this is what I got from the person who actually works in Nintendo. Actually worked, but it doesn't matter up until recently. So what I'm interested to find out, what do you actually think? I'm sorry if I keep referring to the Switch as an NX, because NX really is a better name, I think, for the console. But in any case, they already came up with the name, so there's not much we can do. I think if they execute it properly, they might have another hit on their hands, because if you notice the history of Nintendo, they ride on the waves. The first console sells very well, the second one sells like shit, then another one. It's the same situation with Wii sold like mad, and then the Wii U sold like shit, and then you have the NX or the Switch in this case. It remains to be seen how well it performs in the market. Everything will depend on the marketing message that they give to the people, and it also depends on what's the price of the thing gonna be. A lot of people are like, oh, it's not gonna be more than $300. You can't be fucking serious. Can I tell you something? Because most of these people, the analytics and other people who are like, okay, I'll give a shout out to Review Tech America, I think, Rich, saying that it's not going to be more than $300. You contradict yourself in general, Rich. You bash on the console for not being powerful enough to compete, for example, with PS4 and the Xbox One, yet you want the console to sell for less, knowing that it's a portable technology mostly. To get that all shit hybrid, portable and portable, I think people might have to pay a little bit more than that, because nobody has ever done that before. And I fucking dare anyone to show me a gaming tablet for $300 fucking with the 7-inch screen, 2 fucking controllers, some kind of a internal storage and expandable storage and other things for that price, because I simply don't think that's possible unless you are fucking manufacturer somewhere in China trying to undercut someone with making no profit, not even breaking even. That's not gonna happen. I mean, I expect people to prepare themselves a little bit, to pay a little bit more premium for actually enjoying the same games on TV and on the go, which we were promised to do with PlayStation Vita, but we could never do it. So this is the things that I have to say to you today. What I want to know, based on what I told you today, what are your expectations from the Nintendo Switch? How much are you willing to pay for it? And what do you expect the most out of it? Do you think they're taking the right decisions? And what else are you excited about this console? I thank everyone who is listening and watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel and share the video if you like it. Comment on the videos. I love to read all your comments, and I always post the replies whenever I can. So thank you very much for watching again, and I'll see you all on the next episode of Game Vortex.